Great. Thank you all for coming out today. Today we're going to be speaking on the arrest of an after-school program contractor that we have for unlawful filming. Today speaking, we have Chief Kevin Davis, the Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools, Dr. Michelle Reed, and our Major Daniel Spital of our Major Crimes Division. Chief.
Thanks, Katie, and good afternoon. Over the last 25 days, and it's 25 days exactly, our detectives have dedicated literally their lives to ensuring the full weight of Fairfax County's criminal justice system is introduced to El Toro Lamore Adone. El Toro Lamore Adone is now a defendant. He's a 25-year-old man from Reston, right here in Fairfax County. We have charged him with a total of 24 felony crimes ranging from sexual assault to unlawful filming. His victims are 6 to 8-year-old little girls. Most of these crimes occurred in elementary schools in McLean and Herndon. As we always do, we work hand in glove with Fairfax County Public Schools. My 3+ year relationship with Dr. Reed in her leadership capacity is one that is filled with constant communication and feedback, and we can't thank FCPS enough for their collaboration over the last 3+ weeks. Without it, we wouldn't be where we are today, holding a really disturbing and sick man accountable for his actions that targeted little children. So Major Dan Spital will go over the details of the case. Dr. Reed will come up and offer some remarks, and then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Our investigation started on August 9th of this year. A young girl was in a local grocery store in Reston, and she was shopping with her mother around 9 o'clock at night. She noticed that a man was following behind her. A few minutes later, the young girl told her mom that that man that was following them had touched her inappropriately. The police were called, and the man quickly left the store. The suspect left prior to the arrival of police officers, and detectives from the Major Crimes Bureau were contacted and immediately responded. Detectives reviewed surveillance footage from the grocery store, and they determined that the man had been following this family from aisle to aisle. At one point, the suspect placed his cell phone under the young girl's shorts and took a picture. Our detectives worked around the clock and were able to positively identify the man as Arturo Elmore Adone, 25 years old, of Reston, as the suspect from the day prior. 2 felony warrants were obtained for Elmore Adone, one for aggravated sexual battery and one for unlawful filming of a minor. Detectives worked to identify where he lived, and they took him into custody, leaving his residence just 2 days later on August 12th. A search warrant was authored for the digital contents of the suspect's phone, and eventually detectives from our digital forensics unit were able to view those contents. What our detectives discovered inside Elmore Adone's phone was nothing short of disturbing and disgusting. We located over 400 images and videos of child sexual abuse material, also known as CSAM, that had been downloaded from various international websites. We also located 7 videos of young elementary school students within Fairfax County schools, specifically Churchill Road Elementary School and Fox Mill Elementary School. These 7 videos were surreptitiously filmed by either hiding his phone in a bathroom or by placing his phone underneath the dresses, skirts, and shorts of the young children. There were 7 videos that had a total of 4 victims, all between the ages of 6 and 8. The families of all of these victims have been notified, and they are receiving services from our police department's Victim Services Division, along with Fairfax County Public Schools. Detectives determined that Elmore Adone was working as an after-school program contractor with FCPS. Elmore Adone is not and was never an FCPS employee. In addition to the 2 original charges placed on Elmore Adone from the August 9th incident, Major Crimes detectives charged him with 15 additional counts of possession of CSAM, along with 7 felony charges of unlawful filming of a minor. Elmore Adone is currently facing 24 total felonies. Detectives are still combing through over a half of a terabyte of digital content. He's currently being held at the Adult Detention Center without bond. We are very thankful for the hard work of our detectives and our victim services advocates, as well as our partnership with the schools. We've been working tirelessly on this case, as the chief said, for the last 25 days. But we are asking the public, if anybody knows Elmore Adone, if anyone may have been victimized by him or has had any contact, our detectives want to hear from you. I'll now pass it over to Dr. Reed.
I want to begin by thanking the Fairfax County Police for their partnership and their thorough investigation. The chief and the chief's team have been nothing short of extraordinary. They've kept us apprised of the situation all the way through, and it is heartbreaking to understand this situation here in Fairfax County. We are fully cooperating with the police as they continue to investigate the situation, and we're deeply troubled by today's announcement. As educators, we expect everyone who works with our children to have their safety and health be a top priority. And when that trust is broken, even in situations when that trust is broken, it really affects all of us. So we require all hourly employees to be background checked. So I want to reassure our family members and staff members in Fairfax County that even contracted employees are background checked, as well as our full-time employees. The background check on this individual was done in 2022, and our Human Resources Department reviewed and cleared the candidate at that time. We're committed to continuing to work with law enforcement to keep our broader community informed as this investigation closes out. And we know that anytime there's a situation like this, it is a shock to our community. So we are committed to communication that will be ongoing on this situation as appropriate. We are sensitive also and want to make sure that the families directly involved feel our full support and that we don't in any way cause any further trauma to the children or families in that situation. So we want to be thoughtful in particular about questions that we might answer at this time. It also remains an active police investigation, and we would, in general, want to direct any additional questions about the case to our law enforcement partners. Again, a big thank you to law enforcement here in Fairfax County Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions? Drew?
For Dr. Reed or Chief or Detective, can you elaborate a little bit more on what exactly his job was? What was he doing and whereabouts on these properties where these crimes were alleged to have been committed?
He was working for a vendor of Baruti Camps, which provides after-school activities or camps for students generally at schools, and in this case ran an after-school program or was part of an after-school program from roughly 3:30 to 4:30, the immediately after-school program for students in the division.
Doing sports, activities?
That's correct.
Understood. Very broadly, we've been in this room a lot of times with police announcing things related to FCPS. What are you hoping to say by being here and joining with police and being part of this news conference?
Well, I think that anything that happens to our children that affects our families is about our community. And our community isn't just the schools and it's not just law enforcement. It's a stronger community when we work together. And honestly, I really appreciate the family that called law enforcement from the grocery store that evening, correct? I think it just reinforces how important it is that when we see something, we say something immediately. And that'll make a safer community here in Fairfax County.
In the Safeway that night, 25 days ago, it happened with a parent in the Safeway. The police were immediately called to the scene. A patrol officer started the on-scene investigation, got detectives involved. Detectives do what detectives do, and they went about the business of trying to identify this person. It happened inside a Safeway, so you can imagine there's surveillance video available, and they did traditional detective work to identify him. So we're here today because a parent was with a child, and a child, even a 7-year-old, in the presence of another adult, can absolutely suffer an assault at the hands of another person. So it was certainly not a matter of neglect or indifference, anything like that from the parent. It just happened, and the parent did the right thing, got the police involved immediately. And back to kind of your question, Drew, we together speak to the community with one voice on matters like this one. We don't have dueling messages. We're all working toward the same thing. And Fairfax County Public Schools are places that we're all very proud of. And when something like this happens in our collective community, you're going to hear directly from me and Dr. Reed together. Yes, ma'am.
I know you mentioned the investigation started this August. We do have a video of neighbors that was shared with us back in September of 2022. They reported it to the police that they saw this person in the parking lot of the complex they lived in, touching himself inappropriately. I would like to know what happened with that investigation. Is this still something you're looking into, and why did it take so long in such a way? I know the investigation process.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So back in September of 2022, there was a community member that did reach out to the police department and report that there was a suspicious person in their community. The person had his hands in his pockets, and they thought that he may have been doing something inappropriate with himself. Police were called, they reviewed the video, they spoke to witnesses, and at that point there was no probable cause that existed to make any arrest.
Will that be reviewed again, or will that be left behind?
Yeah, so unfortunately that video, it spoke for itself. We understand what that community member saw and what likely might have been happening. However, now over a year later, there is a statute of limitations, and that we can't go back further. However, our officers were out there. They did a complete investigation. They talked to witnesses. They talked to the community members and reviewed that video. And just unfortunately, they were not able to obtain that probable cause at that time.
Thank you. My other question, Sunrise Elementary, which is the elementary school nearest to his home, have we heard anything about him being around that area, possibly taking videos or pictures?
So, and just let me close the loop on your first question. Almost a couple years ago, El Toro Lamore Adone was the subject of a police call for service. So we get there, and we wrote a report. A crime was not committed, and therefore we didn't make an arrest, but we documented it. So it is certainly fair play to ask that question, because we had previous contact with him. He was engaged in suspicious behavior in the past. A community member saw it, thought enough of it to dial 911. We responded and wrote a report. I would argue that that's how it's supposed to work. Not every person we come into contact with, not every call for service we respond to results in a criminal arrest, because the threshold of probable cause is pretty high. Every time probable cause exists, we absolutely do make an arrest, but on this particular occasion, it didn't. We documented it, but certainly here we are in 2024, and within 25 days, 24 felony charges against him, thanks to really responsive work by patrol officers and detectives to hold him accountable, and he remains under a no bond status. So any ongoing investigations, and Dr. Reed mentioned that this is an active investigation. We believe with the evidence that we've reviewed to this point, we have charged him with every crime that we can possibly realize probable cause to charge him with. There may be other crimes. So as a result of ongoing coverage, someone might recognize him as being in their neighborhood. We want to hear from that person, because if there are additional crimes that he committed, we will hold him accountable for those crimes as well. Yes, sir.
You mentioned obviously people coming forward if they've seen him before. It seems like the two mugshots that we have of him, his appearance changed drastically. Is there any indication that this might be that he was trying to change the way he looks in the first mugshot that we had compared to the second one?
Yeah, I think that would be speculative at the moment. There's one picture there. Go to the next picture. All right, that's A. I don't know where B is. It simply could be hairstyle. We have no information to believe that he altered his appearance intentionally. Yes, sir.
Can you just talk about these types of investigations in 2024? This day and age, you all went, is it common procedure for Fairfax County to maybe kind of get this report, file the warrant, to go through the phone and sort of continue developing the case? Is that what you all typically do in a situation like this? And then with regards, do you have any evidence that there are other victims at this time beyond what you've been talking about today?
Yeah, so your second part first, we don't have any information right now that would lead us to charge him with additional crimes. The door is open. So when people see his image, when people hear this story, when they hear about the elementary schools involved, if they saw something and want to say something to us, we're certainly here to listen and to further investigate. It is no secret to any of you that digital evidence is increasingly important in criminal investigations. So when we make an arrest and we apply for search warrants that include digital devices, whether it's a cell phone or a laptop or a personal computer, criminals, particularly criminals of his nature, they keep their criminal evidence in their possession, and we routinely are able to find it and hold them accountable because we recover that evidence, and the possession of that evidence certainly amounts to a crime, and in his case, 24 felonies.
And then,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry,
Go
one
ahead.
more. For Dr. Reed, I know you said that there is a process by which that you all sort of do the background checks. There was another employee with Fairfax County Police who's been charged with something in this vein, rightly or wrongly. I'm not asking you to speak for other districts, but there have been other charges of educators and people who have close contact with students. What would your message be to a Fairfax County parent who thinks the fact that this happened means that something has to change, that there have to be more stringent requirements, or that you need to take an extra look at who you're hiring or contractors or anything like that? What would you say to a parent who says what you all are doing right now isn't enough?
So I think that there will always be, regardless of those practices we put into place, there are always going to be individuals that make poor choices and behave badly, and in this case, criminally, likely. And I think that at this time, we're following all the protocols to do background checking and supervision that we would either for our contractors or a full-time employee. So I want to reassure our Fairfax families and our staff that we're doing everything within our power to maintain a healthy and safe learning space for all of our students and staff, and we'll continue to do so. It's a top priority.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to say which schools specifically the victims were enrolled in, and if there were, and what other schools that the contractor was also working at around the area?
Yeah, so it was Fox Mill Elementary School and then Churchill Road Elementary School were the two schools where we had victims.
Were there other schools that he was contracted at? Have those parents been communicated with?
So there were other schools that he was working at. However, to our knowledge at this point, there's no evidence that any other crimes were committed in those other schools.
Has Sunrise Valley Elementary come into the conversation just because it was the nearest to his home, or neighbors over there were concerned about him being so close to that school?
Correct. There's no information at this point that says that there was any criminal activity at that school. But once again, if anybody does know anything, have concerns, has seen him, that's really where we need them to contact detectives and to share anything that they know about him.
Can you speak to the extent of evidence here? The fact that detectives are still combing through half a terabyte, that's a lot.
It is. It's a lot of information, but we are confident at this point. We know the images and videos that were created by the suspect have all been gone through, and we have identified all of the victims from his phone. Now, what we do know is that there are other images and videos of downloaded material that may lend itself to additional charges in the future.
Just a quick question for Dr. Reed. Is the school district still contracted and working with the vendor that this gentleman worked for?
So Scott, this vendor works with a lot of schools in the area as well as the county. And we are still contracted with Baruti Sports in the sense that they do still provide services to many of our schools. And to the earlier question, we have sent a letter out, actually a very short time ago, to all of our families in Fairfax County that did list these specific schools. Because as you can imagine, it would be a real concern if we talk about our elementary schools with 141 of them. So we wanted to make sure we identified the schools that this particular individual actually worked in. So that information's been sent to each of our families in the county.
Do you have any information to suggest that folks who are working either with the vendor or overseeing those after-school activities suspected that something like this might have been going on?
I don't believe so, Scott. He was contracted to work from the fall of 2022 through May of 2023. And I believe the recent arrest in the grocery store was the first notice that there was something amiss, seriously amiss.
So, sorry to clarify that, so he hadn't been working with the schools since, because I know these were prior cases by the time he was arrested, but when did he stop, or was he a current?
His employment ended May of 2023.
Are the 24 felony charges, does that include the charges that were announced on Friday and Tuesday?
Yes. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Chief, if I can maybe ask an off-topic question about the child abuse that's being investigated in Alexandria with the kids chained.
Yeah.
Can you just speak to, I mean, in your career, is that something you've ever seen?
Unfortunately, it is something that I've seen. It's very sad, very sick. I don't know how you fix that in an adult who does that to a child, but I will say this: the two patrol officers who were knocking on that door when they were communicating or attempting to communicate with the occupants, they literally heard chains rattling in the background. So what do? They could have turned their backs, walked away, and written it in a report, or they could be inquisitive, and that's what they chose to do. They weren't going to walk away because they suspected that those chains that were rattling were attached to a human. In fact, they were attached to humans, and it was because of their determination to figure out what exactly is going on that led to those arrests. And you know, same goes with these set of circumstances. If not for the parent and the Safeway and the 911 call and the patrol officer and the detective, all these things are happening. And because all those things happened the way they should happen, to include law enforcement involvement, patrol, investigative, we were able to go back, examine digital evidence on unreported serious crimes and charge those crimes. And that's really what this community has come to expect from its police department and its school system, that we're going to be thorough, we're going to be, we're not going to take no for an answer when it comes to the safety of our children, and that's exactly what we did together. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, one more question to go back. Do we know what month in 2022 he started working as a contractor?
It's November?
It was September of 2022 until May of 2023.
He started working in September to
Yes, ma'am.
May of 2022.
That's correct.
Basically, that school year, right?
Right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much for coming out for a list of the schools, the details that we've spoken about, and both the mug shots. We'd love you all to take a look at them. We'd love our community to take a look at them. And please let us know if there's any other information you have. I know we spoke of some today. If you have seen this person or you want to call our detectives, the line will be on our blog. And there will also be a link to our blog on our Twitter account at Fairfax County PD. Thank you.